Agua Town Council meeting, October 12th.
We'll wait a few seconds.
Don, I don't have anybody for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Lou. Appreciate that. I'd like to welcome everyone here that's here and remind everyone that we are having a virtual Zoom meeting format tonight, which means if you can keep your microphone muted, and if you have something to say or share with us, if you can raise your hand, then I'll do my best to recognize that hand being raised and call on you. At that point, you can unmute your microphone and share with us your comments. We also have Cindy Grimes, who's our community volunteer and co-host of the meeting, and she'll be running the chat room and letting people in and out and controlling the volume of this meeting as it moves on. So we want to thank Cindy for her efforts and being available when we have our meetings. At this time, we have the agency reports.
Hey, Don, before we do that, I just want to, one time, want to record the meeting, send a direct message to the co-host, Cynthia, or just put something in the chat so that she can see it.
Yep. Don't send Mary a text because she's busy doing everything it takes to keep this meeting rolling. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So first up, we have Los Angeles County Sheriff Resident Deputy Martinez.
Crimes and a 29% reduction in property crimes for the same time last year. Like I always say, like as far as like small crimes, like you guys don't have that much frequency, so they make a big impact. So had we had like 3 property crimes, it would have been like a 80% increase in crime. So they make a big difference. 1 or 2 numbers will, or incidences will make a big difference in your percentages.
Great.
But that's all I got, and I'll stay on, obviously, if you guys have questions or anything throughout the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us tonight and appreciate the report. Sounds like things are actually getting better, which is good to hear. Next up, we have California Highway Patrol Cops Team, Officer Glauser. You with us here tonight?
Don, I have not seen him log in yet.
Okay. If he shows up, let me know and we'll come back to him. We're going to move right on to Los Angeles County Fire Department. Our community service representative, Maria Greikan. Maria, are you with us? I think she's leading a class or something tonight, isn't she?
I have not seen her come on.
She sent me a text that I think she's distributing radios up Leona Valley, maybe. So I do have, see if I can do that. I do have the fire report.
Okay.
And it looks like there were 0 fires in September, 21 calls for EMS, 1 service call, 1 hazardous condition, 12 good intents for a total of 35.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions for her, they can hold them till next month and address her at that time. Or
the other thing, we're trying to work out, there's a few people who haven't picked up their emergency weather radios. And there will be another distribution before the end of this month. We're trying to work it out with the Agua Dulce Women's Club to do it on their patio again. So it'll be probably that last weekend, and we will keep you informed by social media and on the website.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. Now we have the Acton Agua Dulce Library report by the librarian Jim Wall. He's always here.
Yes, thank you. Hope everyone's doing well. Things going on at the library. We have our usual slate of programming. Story times are going on. Next week, we've actually got a program where the kids can come and make slime. And what better place to make slime at the library because it's not at your house.
Yeah.
So that should be great. As always, all that stuff, you do have to register in advance for it. Make sure you get your spot. And that can all be done on our website, lfcountylibrary.org. An update on our COVID tests. We are no longer distributing the PCR tests that we have been distributing for multiple months now, 6 or 8 months. But I still do have plenty of the rapid tests. So if anyone wants one of those, come on in to my front desk, ask for help, and look at you going. And then one last bit of information, you're going to see a little bit of activity in our parking lot over the next 4 or 6 weeks. They're going to be doing some construction in there, tearing up some parts. They're going to be installing some car chargers.
Huh? Cool.
County got a grant for that, so we're getting some of those. But don't be afraid, when you see all that construction, we are still going to be open.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Okay.
Sounds
So
good.
unless anyone has questions for me, that's all I got.
All right. I don't see any questions there, and I appreciate you making the effort to join us tonight, Jim. You're always
Of course.
with all the information. Thank you much.
No problem.
Other than that, I don't see any other agency reports, so we're going to move on to the 5th District report, which is given to us tonight by Stephanie English.
Dawn, I haven't seen her come on.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know if she does. We're going to move then to California 38th Assembly District, Assembly Member Suzette Martinez Valadares, Patsy Ayala. Patsy, I think I saw Patsy here, didn't I?
No, Patsy's not here. I'm the Assemblywoman's Chief of Staff, so you guys are stuck with me this evening, and I apologize for that. So what's happened since the last neighborhood council meeting? It's been end of session and then the governor signing of all the bills. I want to highlight a couple of legislative successes from the Assemblywoman. In particular, Zaki's bill. It provides online resources to help children who have food allergies deal with kind of what the cafeteria is providing. Then also for schools to know how to protect those children. It was even Zaki and his mom were able to attend the bill signing ceremony with the governor, which was great. We also had a couple of bills that were able to roll into the budget instead of passing out as straight legislation. In particular, one I think that is relevant is streamlining wildfire fuel reduction, for streamlining the CEQA requirements for those projects that have passed NEPA in the national forests. That one we got rolled into the budget, so that was signed into law, which was a big success in that program. And then we had a bill to study low premium wildfire insurance policies and how we can lower those premiums for homeowners. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that bill, so the Assemblywoman has petitioned the insurance commissioner directly to do a study on how we can help provide the coverage needed to homeowners without jacking up rates like they have been over the last several years. And I just want to remind everybody about the constituent services that the Assemblywoman's office provides. Over 2,000 constituents have come to us with issues with EDD, with DMV, their unemployment insurance, renters and landlords issues. If you have any needs with the state agency, our office is here to help. I'm going to put the URL for the website into the chat. Contact us through the website. We'll be as we can to find you a positive resolution for any issues you have with the state agency. Here for any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you for the great report, Brian. We appreciate you stepping in.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good night.
Dawn, Officer Glasser joined.
Officer Glauser?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to go back to B, number 9 of our community meeting agenda items here. California Highway Patrol Cops Team, Officer Glauser has a report for us tonight.
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invite. It's a real pleasure to be a part of your annual parade. That was my first Agua Dulce parade a few weeks ago, and can't believe what kind of parade you guys could put together for your small community. It's really nice. I'm going to bring my kids next time, so thanks for the invite. Pretty busy month for Agua Dulce in terms of traffic in the Agua Dulce area. You have an assigned officer up there that works the afternoon shift, Officer Allen. Probably one of our best officers at our station. Very proactive, very aggressive, very present, especially up in your community in the Agua Dulce area. Works that Sierra Highway quite a bit. He issued over 45 citations just in your area for the town of Agua Dulce in September. Also had a number of arrests ranging from parole violations, probation violations. I believe you had a couple of firearm arrests, illegal firearms. I'll have to double check on that. And there's some DUI arrests as well. So you guys are in good hands. There's always not officers are all created equal. So I'd say him, and there's another officer named Officer DeMasters that spends quite a bit of time up in your community. I'm just looking through the reports here. And there's another officer, Mendoza. So you have three really good officers that dedicate quite a bit of time on that stretch of the Sierra Highway. I know there's a lot of complaints about commuters going through your community and, causing problems. So we're trying to keep that under control. If there's one big message I had for everybody, the message is fentanyl, fentanyl, fentanyl. We are picking up more and more of it. There are massive amounts coming across our U.S. border that are trickling its way into the community. And that is no exception on the freeways. More and more officers are locating those out of arrests. And not just laced pills, but actual fentanyl pills, okay? And unfortunately, it's making its way into schools and the hands of kids. There's been, I think this week alone, tragically, I've seen two headlines about two high school kids dying as a result of an overdose of fentanyl. It's a very, very potent, powerful drug that should be nowhere on our streets, but unfortunately, it's flooding our streets. So if you have kids that go to the school, please sit your kids down, have the drug talk with them. Let them know that, fentanyl is not something they want to mess around with, especially at their young age. And it's just it's potentially lethal with even small doses. So, hate to be a downer, but just trying to get the word out on that. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything I can convey back to the troops?
Anybody have a question? Looks like you're clear. Well, thank you for joining us tonight and giving us a report, and we'll heed the warning about the fentanyl.
Thank you very much. You all take care now.
All right. Great. Next up, we have California 21st Senate District, Senator Scott Wilk. If Brandon Roque is with us, I have a Gavin. Let's see. Oh, that's who was just there, I believe. So at this point, do we have Brandon Roque? Are you here with us? I think so. Or someone?
I haven't seen him come in yet, Don.
Okay, so there's no representative here for Senator Scott Wilk. So we'll go right on to 25th Congressional District, Mike Garcia, Representative Jackie Owens. If Jackie's here, have you seen her come in?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. This rain must have had them stuck on the freeway or something like that. Speaking of rain, let's go on to the Santa Clara River Watershed Area Steering Committee. Maybe W. If Peter's here, Peter's always here with us. Peter, welcome.
What a segue. Great. Hi, Don. Hi, Mary. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Just a quick update. There was no Watershed Area Steering Committee meeting held in October. The next meeting is scheduled for November 3rd. That's a Thursday, and I think it's at 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. The Watershed Area Steering Committee members, including Mary Johnson, participated in some recent tours of a couple of project sites in the Students and Ranch area to learn more about those. Information on all of our Safe Clean Water Program projects is available at the website and the project portal. And if you have any interest or need some help in navigating the website, please let me know. I'll drop my email in the chat. Just to let you know, as watershed coordinators, we've been busy with doing some grant writing, which is one of our roles. And we recently submitted a $1.75 million grant request to the state. And this is to support the organizations all along the river that are trying to remove arundo from the river and restore native habitat. So keep your fingers crossed. These are really great organizations. And a new coalition is being formed among a broad range of local environmental organizations. Primarily, it's kind of starting in the Santa Clarita area, but, it can serve our entire watersheds areas up here. And this is to be able to support one another and focus collectively on local issues, and something that we want to be able to tap into with the Safe Clean Water Program. If you'd like any more information on that, please let me know. And that's what we got going.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks,
Anybody have any questions for Peter? Looks like you're clear. Thank you for the report. See you next meeting. At this time, we're going to move on to our presentation discussions, which brings up the old business project, TT 503 project, TT 503. This time I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chris.
Hi, thanks, Don. Mary, could I share my screen?
Thanks, Don. Mary, could I share my screen?
Looks like we got a double image going on here. All right, there's Chris. There we go. Let's see.
All right.
Agenda, hold it. Okay.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yep, we're looking at Agua Dulce residential project.
All right.
Agua Dulce residential project.
All right. I think somebody may have their mic open and it's causing some feedback.
Yep.
I muted somebody, so I think you're good.
Thank you, Mary. All right, welcome everybody to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Agua Dulce Residential Project. What I'd like to just cover off in the next 15 minutes or so is the following agenda. Just discuss the state of play with the various agencies we've been interacting with. Also talk through some of the correspondence that was referenced earlier in the meeting in terms of what the council said in that correspondence in some detail. We immediately before last month's meeting had received a letter from RTG, and I want to respond to one particular issue that was referenced in there that I think we disagree with. And also, I think, talk about the potential relationship of some of the things that we're seeing going on here with the needs of the high-speed rail project. So without further ado, let's talk about where we stand at the moment with the agencies. Congressman Garcia's office is continuing to submit information about this project to the different government agencies that have oversight of some of these executive orders that are relevant to what we believe is happening here. Clearly, those agencies aren't going to turn around and show up in a presentation at the Agua Dulce Town Council meeting and tell everybody what they're doing, but they're certainly receptive to the information that I think is being shared. There has been no response to the letter that we sent on August 12th to Anish Soraya. If you remember, various representatives from LA County showed up at the July meeting, and Anish promised to, act swiftly to get to the bottom of the issues that we raised. We outlined the issues that had been raised in the last meeting. If you want to go get a copy of that, it's available on the Town Council's website. The State Water Board has acknowledged that the grievances that were filed by various members of the community to the decision they took on February 10th to issue a dredge and fill permit have been filed. but it's a very bizarre position that they've basically taken. They basically said, thank you for the petitions, they're valid, and those petitions are going to be terminated on December 1st unless one of the following happens. The Water Board has to write, the State Water Board has to write to the LA Water Board and other interested parties before November 30th, advising them they have 30 days to respond to what's in the petitions. Or the petitioners, the people who filed these petitions and grievances, can ask for them to be stayed. Or the Water Board just notifies the people who wrote the petitions that the petitions have been dismissed, which seems like a bit of a kangaroo court in as much as they can sit on their butts and do nothing until November 30th and then tell everybody that the solution is come and sue us in court. So it's a very unusual response, I think, to the petitions. But we'll obviously wait and see what happens. We did have a chat to some of Assemblyman Tom Lackey's staff at the high-speed rail meeting last Saturday, and I think they will be nudging the State Water Board on to make sure that we don't get to November 30th without a response to that. The other thing that we learned, which was almost simultaneous with this response about the petitions, was that the Regional Water Quality Control Board have accepted the letter of credit that we looked at between the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works and the developer for the very large 1.9 million cubic yard grading permit as the financial assurance. If you remember, going back to February, the community had said, look, you know, what happens if this company who's never done anything in America before simply gets halfway through and walks away? What then? You know, there's a bunch of dug up hills and no way of fixing it. So the board of the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board said, look, we understand that. We think we have an obligation to do the right thing by the community here. And they introduced a new section into that dredge and fill permit that basically said, you've got to give us, the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board, a financial assurance that will satisfy us that if things don't go as planned, that we can fix these things. And subsequent to that, in April, if you remember, we got sent this copy of the letter of credit, which was in draft format at the time between RTG, the net trading company, and the LA County Regional Planning. And I asked when I received that, I said, well, why are you sending this? Is this what you are planning to use for the financial assurance? And the reply came back to that, no. This letter of credit between the county and the developer, we can't use that. And we're going to need a separate one, which is specific to this dredge and fill permit. So what they then turned around and did the day after they'd sent these the information about the grievance petitions was they advised that they would actually be using that letter of credit. Now, I have used letter of credits in my career, and they are essentially quite specific. So they name a beneficiary, and in this case, the beneficiary is the Los Angeles Department of Public Works. And the mechanism that allows the funds to flow out of that letter of credit, if it becomes necessary, is the grading permit that was put together in 2002. What it doesn't do is it doesn't list the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board as a beneficiary, and it doesn't list the order that was, specific to the water board. So if something does go sideways here, and the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board calls up Credit Suisse Bank in Switzerland and says, hello, it's the water board, we'd like some money, please. They're going to tell them to take a long walk off a short plank because, one, they're not the beneficiary, and two, the contract that they have that they're supposedly trying to get umbrellaed into here isn't part of this grading permit that exists between the county and the developer. And separately, it's not like the Regional Water Quality Control Board is part of LA County. It's a completely unrelated state entity. So you've got very little wiggle room there to say, well, we're also, the only thing that they really are both the separate parts of some form of California government. So that's quite concerning. And I suspect that they may well have looked at those grievance petitions and realized that they've got some very valid points in there. And they've just decided to push ahead so that at the point at which these things get challenged in a court, if that's where it ends up, they can just go, well, you know what, they've graded the hill already and it's too late. So I don't necessarily feel that those two events were necessarily unrelated. We talked about the pending map extension in the previous meeting in September. And one of the things that we really were struggling with was that in 2015, in January, LA County had given the then developer what they described as the final 5-year extension. And we were really struggling to understand how you could get an additional extension beyond something that was final way back in the day. So we actually submitted a letter prior to this regional planning hearing as a council. We pointed out that the map was actually extended in what was described as the final time to expire in October this month. The map extension in 2015 indicated that 5 years would be required. They needed that full 5-year period to properly plan out and get the approvals for the wastewater treatment plant. Our letter pointed out that in the 7.5 years since that approval was granted, no work's been done on the wastewater plant. And we also pointed out that in the July meeting, Anish Saraya had told us, the supervisor's very concerned about the fact that these, projects are moving forward based on, plans that were approved 28 years ago in 1994. And we pointed out that this was a discretionary extension, not a mandatory one, and that the supervisor was concerned about that. But that didn't seem to bother the Planning Commission because they went and gave them the final extension until October 11, 2023. Just to give you a sense of how we ended up going from 2007 to 2023, this table really lays it out. What you find is that when you first record a map, or first get approval, the map that underlies that approval, in this case, what was approved in the supplemental in 2007, is valid for 2 years. And then the developer can come back to the local agency and get another 6 years of discretionary extensions. But what started to happen, for instance, in 2008, in response to the global financial crisis, which caused an awful lot of problems with foreclosures and other issues, mortgages, and goodness knows what else, somebody in the legislature came along and said, well, I'm going to propose State Bill 1185. And what that will do is it will automatically extend any unrecorded map by 12 months, wherever they are in that process. And you see that happened in 2009 with AB 333. It happened again in 2011 with AB 208. It happened again in 2013 with AB 116. And then most recently, in response to COVID, it happened in 2020 with AB 1561. So each time that those bills were passed, the maps that hadn't been recorded were automatically extended. But there doesn't appear to be any further discretionary extensions beyond October of next year that are possible under this. So that's how LA County got from 2007 to 2023. We did ask them back in our letter in August, could you please explain how you feel you can give them a final extension? Obviously, they haven't replied to that, so we had to go figure this out for ourselves. The other thing that we flagged last month was that we just seen these two requests for minor map amendments and phasing plans and large lot maps. I actually submitted a public records request on behalf of the council to Department of Regional Planning, and their response to that was, yeah, we need to redact some information and we're not going to give you anything until the 20th of October. Now, these approvals that can be given to these applications are discretionary, so they won't come in front of a planning hearing officer. The council at the last meeting decided that we would write, and we pointed out, and we're flying blind here because we don't know the specifics of what are in those applications because they haven't been disclosed to us. But we pointed out that in the 1994 additional use permit, there's a very clear section that says, I'm sorry, but until you've got this secondary street access figured out, you can't record anything beyond the first 68 lots that have already been recorded for the project. And clearly what happened was we wrote to the county in March and said, hey, look, we're pretty concerned that there's no secondary access here. And the county's reply was, doesn't matter. there's one way in, one way out for phase one, and that's good enough. So they kind of painted themselves into alibi here. And we said, look, you've made it very clear here that you're just going to let this thing run with one phase. And if you're going to do that, then you would fall foul of condition 17 of that approved planning document. The other thing that the 1990 approved plans do is limit the issuance of building permits. And a building permit includes a grading permit until there's adequate evidence of adequate sewage treatment capacity. And clearly we know, because we've had lots of discussions about this, that there is no plan. The sewage treatment plant that was proposed in 2007 was described as conceptual, and nothing has really been done. And the conceptual plan, the 2007 approvals, have some very clear wording in it. As I say, you guys need to understand that you may need to produce some environmental reports. You may need to change the maps when you finally bring us a plan that we can look at for this particular project. Now, for a minor map amendment to be valid, the developer or the applicant has to essentially sign off a CEQA waiver that says, you know what, we're going to make these changes and it has no significant impact environmentally on the project. And we contended that there's this huge hole. This sewage treatment plant is going to basically satisfy every single building on this project. And therefore, you can't issue a CEQA waiver, a certification, when you haven't done the CEQA for a very key part of that project. And what we've also said is that regarding the large lots, and we don't know what the large lots are, but if you record lots and the lots have that wastewater treatment plant on them, or they're part of the phase that has the wastewater treatment plant in it, you're basically piecemealing the project at that stage, which is illegal under CEQA. So let's go and have a chat about the letter from RTG. If you want to read the letter from RTG, you can go download it from the homepage of adtowncouncil.com. It's there for you to have a look at. You can admire their skills in formatting paragraphs and cutting and pasting from multiple sources into a single document. It's a bit of a mess. But there's one thing that we picked up on last time, and that was this statement that RTG is an American company created under the laws of the state of Wyoming that's owned and controlled by a single individual member, and it's not a Russian-based company. Now, we did a bit more research, and I have to thank the magic elves of Agua-Dulce who've been furiously working in the background, coming up with this information and sharing it. But let's start with something that we first looked at in May. This is the letter of credit between RTG Investment and the county for the grading permit that became final in July this year. And what the grading permit letter of credit does is it tells you that there's a company called Vinet Trading Company in Nicosia, Cyprus, who is described as the holding company of RTG Investment, LLC. So the Wyoming company is owned by Vinet Trading Company in Nicosia, Cyprus. And this is basically what that letter of credit tells you. So then we look at Vinet Trading Company, and it has an address in Nicosia, Cyprus. Oddly enough, if you put that address in Nicosia, Cyprus into Google, one of the first things that it comes up with is references to the appearance of that address in something called the Panama Papers, which was something that was released back in 2019. Now, clearly, there can be legitimate companies based at addresses. It doesn't list Vinet Trading Company specifically in those papers, but it did seem somewhat odd that the first search term that comes up when you put the address in is the Panama Papers reference. But what you see is that Google will take you to an address for Vinet Trading Company in Russia, in Moscow, at Prospect Mira number 39C2. And that's the same building that is the address for Rutsog in Moscow as well. And you can see the address down there for Rutsog, and that's the Google map search that you get when you type in Rutsog. So when you start to look at Vinet Trading Company, there is this great thing that basically controls all the domain names, the website names on the internet. It's called the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and this makes sure that you don't trip over your shoelaces when you're trying to grab a website that's already registered to somewhere else on the planet. And if you reverse search using this URL up here, what you'll find is that the Net Trading Company owns a whole host of websites, including rootsog.ru, thenettrading.com, rubingregorian.com, and those are all registered through a Russian equivalent of GoDaddy.com. Pretty big company like GoDaddy, but Regional Network Information Center, JSC, is just a large internet domain name and domain registration company. So if we look at rootsog.ru, there's this concept in the internet where you can say, well, who actually owns this website? You know, if I want to buy a website that nobody's using, I can figure out who owns it and then make an approach to them and offer some cash for it if they happen to be using a name that I'm interested in. I've done this before because we bought and sold here that we've discovered. And we think that the upsizing of the water system that LA County is doing is connected, I think, likely now to the high-speed rail project. And they're trying to do it without an EIR. So, you know, I've spent 8 months, and some of our community members have spent an awful lot longer looking at this project. And I'm going to disclaim this by saying this is not necessarily the views of the management. So this is not the council's view. This is Chris Udall's personal view as to what I think is going on here. When you take a step back and look at the totality of this, what we know and what we've learned in the last few months. Agua Dulce, so I think this is what's happening. District 37 is insolvent, and they basically said exactly that in an Acton Town Council meeting that they attended earlier this year. So they can't afford to put a water line in on the hope that the high-speed rail might come at some point in the future. But it's kind of convenient that this developer pops up and agrees not just to put a water system in there, but to upsize it as well. And I think in exchange for the developer's agreement to upsize it, the county and the state agencies are basically saying, you know what, we're just not going to push too hard on some of these preconditions that are actually stipulated in these planning documents. And you know, the things that we're getting nonsensical answers to, like upsized water systems and mix and match wastewater entitlements and the secondary access being important in a high fire risk area, that starts to suddenly explain why we're seeing that. Once the developer puts the water system in, then they are obliged under these agreements from 2002 to effectively let the county adopt it from them. So this becomes part of District 37's infrastructure. At that point, the developer can grade out the pads in phase 1. They've got municipal water, they've got water storage on site, and they can sell it plus whatever other lots they happen to have picked up to someone else. It's interesting that those orange boxes that they had on their November presentation are adjacent to streets like Sierra Highway and Escondido Canyon Road, both in Acton and Agua Dulce. And at the end of it all, you know, the county gets an upsized water system without doing any of the EIR, and probably, you know, geographically, if you look at the most logical route, they pull it through Puritan Mine Road, underneath the 14, along Escondido into Agua Dulce. And this is a water system that was specifically downsized in 1994 to limit the growth-inducing potential of this project. And that's a clearly stipulated part of, it's referenced as such in the 2007 supplemental EIR. And there is an obligation when you start to make changes like this to study and provide an environmental impact report so that people can comment on it. And I think this one has just been swept under the rug in the hope that nobody's going to notice. But we did. So I think there's a couple of things that we as a council need to discuss. There's always some next steps, and I know Don hates writing letters, but I'm going to make a suggestion that we write a couple of letters and we'll have a chat about them. But I really do think that we need to point out to the Regional Water Quality Board, as we did in our comments to them after the February 10th approval, that their letter of credit is worthless to the purpose that they've stated and the requirements of their dredge and fill permit. I have submitted a public records request to Public Works asking for information incidental to the California High-Speed Rail Environmental Impact Report and pointed out to them that there is a magic water main in the middle of Escondido Canyon. And I'd like to know, on behalf of the council and the community, exactly what their proposed plans are to get water to that point. Because we can't sensibly comment about what the impact is on that on the community until we know what that connection is. Is it going to be on Crown Valley, in which case it'll be drawing out of the Acton Water Basin? Is it going to be from AVEC? Is it going to be from additional storage that's installed at the Agua Dulce residential project? We don't know, but I think we have a right to know. And I think next month we should probably spend a bit of time as a council having a chat about high-speed rail, particularly in the light of this and also some of the information that Acton Town Council has separately determined about the calculations for the project, and have a discussion about that, because we don't have that many weeks, and we run into things like Thanksgiving and holiday times and goodness knows what else. Our deadline for submitting comments to the high-speed rail EIR is December 1st, and we have to act quickly. So I think we should spend some time as a council discussing high-speed rail rather than beating this dead horse. And I want to leave you with a quote. Now, obviously, I didn't start off life as a US citizen. I became one. And you're obliged to learn about civics and pass the civics test. So you learn about US history. And it also suggests that to return the good favor of become a citizen, you run for office. The latter I do regret. But what Abraham Lincoln said about 160 years ago after Gettysburg was that this, in exchange for all those lives that were lost fighting for this, that there would be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And I would argue, and this is not a party political statement, this is a statement about a constitution. I would argue right now that what we're seeing from state level agencies and LA County agencies is anything but government by the people, for the people. It's broken. And I'm very disappointed in what I've learned about this. But I just want to leave you with that thought, because this is not the sort of thing that we should be doing as a town council and the sort of stuff that we should be fighting.
It's also my opinion, so I think we should do the letter. I just don't want to type it.
Yeah. Well, let's see what the rest have to say here.
This is Scott.
Yes, Scott. You started to hear you, Scott, and then I didn't hear anything.
You're muted, Scott.
Sorry, I'm in agreement with Chris and Lou.
All right.
I totally agree.
I think that was Candy.
Yes.
And what's your opinion on this?
I'm totally disgusted that this has gone this far, and all the cover-ups and all the excuses and the lies. And I personally think that we're being ignored too by our people. And I know that everybody has pressing issues going on, but this is a very pressing issue, not only for us, but what could happen in the future. So I totally am thankful for Chris and all the research you've done, but we need to step up and we need to do something.
Well, I think part of it that Chris has pointed out is that they haven't, that these documents don't exist at this point, and so that leaves us to speculate, which we all hate to do, but we really don't have a choice unless they're willing to be upfront and let us know, why we shouldn't be concerned. I think it's a matter of community interest. Especially the water situation. I think everybody's aware that the kind of water that they're looking for just is not here. It's not under the ground here. So if it is a matter of bringing a pipeline from another community to here, obviously that's going to concern the environment. And at that point, I think we need to find out what their intentions are and have a full review to make certain it's not going to ruin the community. I mean, I have no idea what their idea is. I know they have some water on their property, but they've already said that they are not going to use their water. So it's something. If it's going to be coming from Acton, Acton's concerned because apparently one of their mains comes from their the wells that they have down in the riverbed, and the other main line, which is north of the freeway, comes from AVEC. So I am confused as far as what their intentions are, and I think a letter is in order to at least clear up the unknown portion of these particular facts.
I think, Don, based on previous experience, it's possible that the county could take the position of, well, those plans for that water line that's going to come down Escondido Canyon are in draft format at the moment, and it's not in the public interest for us to disclose them. And I don't know how you get around that. I mean, you'd have to get into a lawsuit with them. Or you basically just set it up so that the high-speed rail is obliged to answer. Or if they answer insufficiently, then you slap them with a CEQA suit as soon as the draft high-speed rail EIR becomes final. I mean, that's ultimately, I think, the only way you're going to get these agencies to actually do what they're responsible for doing. Okay. I mean, I get that projects of this nature are complex. I really do. But you can't just magically put a water line in the middle of a community that doesn't have municipal water and expect nobody to ask any questions about it. When you look at the number of plans that have been contemplated for those properties that adjoin Davenport Road and head down to Sierra Highway, and you look at some of the plans that have been put forward previously for projects along Agua Dulce Canyon, this can quite easily turn Agua Dulce into Santa Clarita Light.
Well, and that's, I've always said, you know, everybody would love to see city water, but you got to realize along with city water comes the city. And it's something where definitely the residents have expressed their concern that they want to keep the rural community feeling. They want to have the equestrian-sized lots, and that's the reason why the CSD has been set up for that form of protection. And obviously the concern is, you know, once water is available, then the next stopping gap, obviously, is the sewage. What are you going to do with the sewage? And you know, so it's something. I think the more answers or the more details or reports that we can gather, it's only just going to build a level of comfort. Otherwise, I think everybody feels that they're suspicious about exactly what's going on.
Yeah, Don, if I could just reply to a comment from Diana. Diana, they won't start drilling on the 14 for quite a while, so it'll take a couple of years for them to get this environmental impact report. It's a draft right now. It then has to absorb all the community comment, and they come out with a final version of it. That gets circulated for comment and presented, and then it gets adopted by whoever's responsible for doing that. So that's probably at least 2 years away. And then once that gets approved, it has to be funded. The high-speed rail project isn't funded right now for this section between Burbank and Palmdale beyond getting to that environmental impact report. So then they have to go figure out how they're going to pay and start planning out the detail of all the construction. So certainly, you know, on a multi-year horizon from where we are today, but obviously could have quite a profound impact on the community as we know it.
Just to weigh in a little bit on the letter to Public Works, it's great that we send it, but we're not going to have a response in a timely manner that we can use that in response to submitting any comments for the high-speed rail, because they'll never, I mean, it's October 12th. We have to have comments in by December 1st. They're not going to reply to us. So I think it's important that we send that letter, but we can't count on using that. But I also, just FYI, everybody who lives on Agua Dulce Canyon Road between Escondido and south of the freeway, your properties will be affected by this. If you put in your address, and I put it in the on the town council website, there's an interactive spot that shows, you can put in your address, and if your property may have partial taking of it. Almost every property along Agua Dulce Canyon Road, south of Escondido, all the way south to where this connects south of the 14, your properties are included in partial acquisition for high-speed rail. So if you know anybody along those areas, let them know, because your properties will be affected. So we do need to have additional discussion on the high-speed rail, but definitely I'm in agreement on both of the letters. I just don't want us to kind of sit on our laurels expecting Public Works to give us clarity when we submit comments for the high-speed rail.
Right. So, does anybody know?
No, but Mary definitely has a point. And they're going to use also, as Chris said, all the holidays coming up as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and when they take property, everybody thinks, oh, well, my house is worth $1 million on Zillow. They'll give me $1 million. I've been through this with the LA Department of Water and Power. Yeah, Water and Power, and they ran the towers through North of Sierra Highway. And I had 7.5 acres, and of course they took 1 acre. It was the view portion of this 7.5 acres, the very top of the hill. And their representative visited me in the office and said, well, we've proven that this property really, this 1 acre is really worthless, but we're willing to give you $1,000 for this 1 acre parcel. And she had her figures there as far as, they subtract this and add this and whatnot. And I said, well, if you can find a 1 acre parcel in Agua Dulce for $1,000, I'll buy 100 of them. And she didn't have much to say, but needless to say, we ended up selling our property, selling that 1 acre to the Department of Water and Power, and that's where the towers go through right now. And it's something where you're really, when they decide to take these properties, yes, they give you a value, but their value always starts off with what they believe they can purchase it for, and then you have to prove otherwise. So it's not a simple task. And I think if anybody who visits the high-speed rail website goes to the interactive map that Mary's referring to, you can actually see these blue lines are all over the place as far as Agua Dulce coming up from the freeway. It's all the property left and right that they're not in the process yet, but they're saying future could be taken. Obviously, they haven't even decided on which of the 6 routes they're going to take, but they do have a preferred route, and that's the route that goes through Agua Dulce, goes through Acton. Obviously, those of us that have been attending these meetings, we wish there was no high-speed rail, period. But it's a matter of, we've got to look at each of these individual 6 EIRs and draw conclusions and make comments by December 1st. And obviously, the town council is going to respond. But as individual property owners and residents, anybody can respond. And so the more negative pushback we can provide to high-speed rail, the better off it's going to be as a community. So I urge everyone to visit that website. You'll get nauseous if you look at the actual EIR. I mean, Chris isn't exaggerating when he talks about 1 million pages. It goes on and on and on and on. But I think the best thing that they have provided is this interactive map that you can zoom down, and they don't tell you if the rail's going underneath your property. It doesn't say how deep they are, but you can see the different routes that they have planned. And the routes are one thing, but the access for this water and the electricity that they're saying they need to make this train function is massive. It's not a simple little, let's run electricity to a new hotel. It's a major expansion of the power from Agua Dulce, and with this 110,000 gallons per day that Chris is referring to, that's quite a bit of water. So I'm open for any suggestions on what this letter needs to say. Mary, you're my concern is that we don't get RTG and the high-speed rail too intermixed. But we obviously need to do our best to get answers back. At least let them know what our concerns are. And I think because of that, in representing the community, we need to draft a letter of some type to make a request. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think if we're clear about it, and then when we do make our response to high-speed rail, we could indicate that we are looking for clarification from LA County, but have not received anything. So I think that's how we can get around that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to
wait until we hear from them to move. Because waiting for them is going to take 6 months.
Yeah, but definitely to the LA County or LA Regional Water Quality Control Board, because that was, I think that was really the only, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, that adding that condition was really the only thing that they changed in their application when this came before them. So the fact that they're not consistent with, because as I recall, at the meeting they talked about LA County would have a bond, and they said that they wanted something separate and apart from that.
Yes. Yeah, and in fact, David Nahai, the board member, basically said, we owe it to this community to do the right thing by them. And he pushed back very strongly on the objections of the developers' legal representatives at the time, who were saying, hey, look, we've had to do massive bonding for this project. We shouldn't need to come up with another one. And this is the sort of stuff you'd do if we were doing an open cast mine or some huge industrial development. And Nahai said, no, we've listened to the community and this is what we want. And then, behind their backs, and I think, I do believe, and I think I might have expressed this earlier, that the lawyers at the State Water Quality Board have read that grievance, and they realise that they're way on the wrong side of the line there, and they realise that if it were heard in a court, it would likely prevail. And I think they're just putting their foot on the gas to try and get as much done as they can before that happens, so they can, offer up a mea culpa.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to write a letter to the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board noting the inconsistencies between the terms of the LA County letter of credit and the Water Board's stated needs.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
You got 16 seconds. That's good. All right. Any more discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. So that's the letter to the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board. Any other requests? I mean, what I think, even though, and basically, this letter is going to say that we are not in favor of the granting of this approval. I mean, is that kind of the way that letter is going to go?
I think the letter basically needs to point out that the financial assurance they've got doesn't meet the terms that they agreed in their section 13J of the permit.
Okay. All right.
And just explains how a letter of credit works and why they can't just call up Credit Suisse Bank in Zurich and get paid.
Okay. All right. Any other What do you think?
Then I'm also going to make a motion that we write to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works seeking clarity on the connection points and the system plan of the 16-inch water main noted in the recently released California High-Speed Rail draft environmental impact review.
Okay, all right. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right, so these letters are going to state our concern and whether or not I mean, it's obviously not going to be back in time for December 1st, but at least we can be on record of this is what has been presented to us, and we believe it to be factual unless you can prove it otherwise.
Yeah, and I think Babak Nafisi had entered a comment
On that table for an hour at a time. I have not gotten a lot of response from that, and you don't have to be have Chris Udall knowledge of what's going on. You just have to hand out the information and be able to chat and have a conversation with people, because there will be a lot of people at that festival who maybe don't even know this is happening. I'll have flyers there and all kinds of things to help. So please, 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 you can post in the chat here. You can post to the Facebook group. I will post our email address in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. Get to me and let me know that you're willing to spend an hour on a beautiful October afternoon at Vasquez High School. That would really, really be helpful. I also am looking to perhaps get some fundraising activities or events going on. I am relatively new to this community, so if anybody has connections to perhaps the people who own Maria Bonita or Homemade or Perkin Up or any of the hangouts that we all love so much, please, again, shoot me a message. Let me know if you can help me in those contacts. And I think that's about it. Oh, somebody on the chat I noticed made mention of, why don't we go to the press? Well, we have gone to the press. Actually, one person in the press has come to us, and they are ready to publish an article as soon as our first lawsuit is filed. So what I've learned through this process is the media doesn't like to just talk without something concrete to hold on to and refer to. So as soon as, actually probably around the same time as we file our first lawsuit or action, you will see something in the press. I promise I will put that information up on the Facebook group when it's ready to happen. I'm trying to not blow their cover right now, but it's a local publication that has a very good following. So I'll say that much.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. If someone does want to donate, is there a name that they don't? Is it got a name of the action group that they would make the check out to, or do you have information?
That's a really good question, Don. We're in the process of finalizing the organizational parts of this. You know, the state of California and the IRS, it takes weeks. So in the meantime, send me an email again. I'm going to post that email in the chat in just a moment. You can either contact me through the Facebook group, which is called, I changed the name recently, I would also say Acton Concerned Neighbors. I'll post that in the chat as well. You can reach me either way. And if you'd like to donate, let me know how much and give me your email address, and I will shoot you the email with all of that information.
Okay, but right now it sounds like that they're mainly looking at pledges, people that are saying they're not writing a check right this second.
We just started getting checks written because the attorney has agreed to let the community send write out the checks to him directly until we get organized. We will be able to backdate everything so that everybody will get a receipt from our organization. We're also working on, I can't even fully explain right now, and everybody must be dead tired, but there's a way to hook up with other 501c3 corporations to be able to get their status. So, and to help in aid, to help us to not have to make as complicated an organization. So I'm working on that right now as well. And as soon as that information is available, we'll be able to send everybody who's donating now and writing checks now will get receipts from that organization. So it will be, you will have your charitable donation receipt eventually.
Thank you, Marcy. We appreciate your efforts.
Sure.
Marcy,
Yeah.
I put on the agenda your email address, adneighbors with an S 2021@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yes,
okay,
it
so
is.
that's for anybody interested. It's on the agenda.
Okay.
And I just wanted to throw out, because I see this stuff, and it always just boggles my mind how much money can be garnered that way. But consider a GoFundMe.
I have. And
go ahead.
I have. I'm waiting for the organizational things to happen because I can't. There's nothing to set up now because nobody can donate and pay directly to our organization yet until all of these things happen. I'm hoping. I look at my mail every day, wishing that the next piece of paper will come so I can go to the next step. So hopefully, in real short order, I'll have all that done. And then I want to look into a GoFundMe or some sort of crowdsourcing to help add to this fund. Because, you never know how much this will end up costing. And the most important thing is to think about is that we want to be able to see it all the way through to the very end. We don't want to get it started and then not have anything to finish it up with. We want to be able to get to the end and make this whole thing stop. So.
Great. Well, thank you for your efforts, Marcy. I appreciate you spearheading this. And yes, who is that? Somebody has something? Okay. Thank you much. All right.
Sure.
Okay. Now we're on to the President's report. Incoming correspondence for action. Notice for availability has already been discussed. The Palmdale to Burbank project section draft environmental impact report. You can view it online at hsr.ca.gov, and once you get onto that page, you can kind of look around there, find your property, and get a feel for how it's going to impact you and your neighbors.
Don, just FYI, for anybody looking at the agenda, the HTTPS geographica.maps, that is the interactive. That's the one you can put your address in. So those of you who are looking for that, look at the agenda, geographica.
Okay. All right. And they had, can you get to that? In other words, if you go onto the hsr.ca.gov, do they have a link there to send you to that geographica? We don't know.
Not really. The best way to do it is to, instead of going to high-speed rail directly, and I've got this address on the agenda also, it is meet highspeedrail SoCal.org/P-/ So it's meet highspeedrail SoCal.org, Palmdale to Burbank, is basically what it is. So that really is the direct route that really has just Palmdale to Burbank and is a much better way to navigate than going through the high-speed rail main website.
Okay, and I think that's the one that has the flyover, where you can actually pick a particular route and it takes you as if you were flying over that section. Okay.
Correct.
All right, great. Incoming correspondence. Again, let me mention the comment period has been extended. They were going to have it November 1st, if I'm not mistaken. They extended it to December 1st, which still isn't that much time. But anybody as an individual can comment on this. In fact, they're going to have a meeting is it the 18th? I believe it's the 18th.
Correct.
Where you can actually have your testimony recorded. They're going to have a report reporter there that takes down your testimony or your comment and turns it into actual legal testimony as to your comments towards the high-speed rail. So, and if you go on the website, obviously, let's see, okay, here it is. By oral testimony at the online public hearing, that's going to be held October 18th from 3 p.m. till 8 p.m. So it's 5 hours. So that anybody who wants to make oral comment or oral testimony, that's the time to do that. With that said, we're going to go on to the incoming correspondence for notice. We have regional planning plans that have been filed quite here for ground mount solars and water wells, which is a little odd. But the big one here is the minor map amendment for tentative track number 50385, which Chris gave the report on.
Don, I just wanted to point out too, if you look at F34155 Castle Haven, that's got some really odd stuff happening there. So if anybody is a neighbor or know anybody over by Castle Haven, they've applied for miscellaneous permits for the needs of a large family of 9, aged 13 to 24, from an Israeli kibbutz. Trash enclosure, swimming pool and spa, outdoor kitchen, storage room, horse stalls, broom and tack room, office and storage room. And it appears as if all of those things will be living arrangements for the family.
Okay. Aged 13 to 24. Okay. All right. And they can find the details on that on the county website? Mary? I know that on our website we publish what they're actually asking for, but as far as any details, there really isn't. You can look down through and find out what their actual intents are, other than looking at what they're requesting and drawing a conclusion from that. Okay, all right. So that's there. The Department of Regional Planning is evaluating the subdivision process to develop improvement. You can link to the subdivision survey. They have a survey on there. And then also the Department of Regional Planning draft community wildfire protection CWP ordinance. The ordinance applies to unincorporated areas located within the very high fire hazard severity zone, which is us. In fact, it's pretty much all of Southern California. So the project website there is listed on our website. So public hearings and community hearings, meetings. Again, the Palmdale to Burbank project section. That's October 18th, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. And now that brings us to open forum, which if anybody has anything they want to share with the community, we give you 3 minutes to do so. So if you want to raise your hand, now's the time to do it. And we can call on you. I don't see too many hands up here. Okay, well, we're going to go right on to high-speed rail update from Pam Walter. Pam, are you with us here? I know she's very busy. So, anybody else have anything to share that we haven't shared already with the high-speed rail? Okay. Committee reports. We're going to start off with
John?
Yes.
We have Grace Chapman McCarthy. Can't see the end of her name with her hand up.
Okay, I don't see it, but if you're here, Grace, you've got the floor. Grace?
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts about all the grow houses that seem to be just growing in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, well, the sheriffs had a meeting about a year ago in Acton, and they actually set up a website. So if anybody sees anything that's suspicious.
Yeah. Hey, Don. It's W. Martinez. So yeah, we still have that email up for everybody. It's marijuana tips at lasd.org. And that's where you report any suspected grow houses. When we first started it, we had roughly about 130, 140 houses in Acton and Agua Dulce. They're down to about 50. It's one team doing the whole North County, not just our area. Wow. So they're doing Leona Valley, they're doing Little Rock. They are hooking and booking like crazy. That doesn't mean that these guys are getting times, but it's not as bad as it has been. I think part of it is also now with like the interest rates and stuff like that. Buying $1 million houses aren't exactly the easiest turn profit as it was, because at the end of you bust a house a few times and they'd still turn around and sell it for $1 million. They didn't lose anything out of the deal. That's changing the dynamics a little bit on that. So like I said, the majority of what we were dealing with here in Agua Dulce was Armenian like mob and stuff, and it was a return on investment. Like it's a business. It's 100% a business. They're not doing it like some of the other ones are running other criminal stuff out of it, or there's other issues. Like these were very low key, just doing what at the house, growing, turning a profit, seeing what they could do, and if they can't turn a profit, they leave. That's kind of what's going on with that. But if anyone has anything in the neighborhood that they suspect whatsoever, absolutely.
I do. I certainly do.
That's the mode that you need to email, because it's not. No one's going to do anything about it until you email that email address that I mentioned, marijuana tips at lasd.org.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
And that is anonymous. They will ask you for your phone number and stuff like that. They have it set up where that way you can talk to them, and they go say, hey, on these days we're going to be in the neighborhood, all that good stuff. So you don't call in a suspicious vehicle. But they'll get your side of the story. You're not going to be involved after that, like as far as like the criminal proceedings. They go out there, they do their own investigation, create their own probable cause, get their own search warrant, and then make the arrest off that. That's how we've been able to separate everything. That way you guys don't feel that you're going to be retaliated against or you're in any danger by reporting it. That's why we're going this route. And then, like I said, it takes about 4 months turnaround per reporting to the house getting it's about 4 months. So like I said, they're very, very busy.
Is there any point in the growing that is better to bust than others, or is there a good time to report a house?
The best time to report it is the minute you suspect it, because like I said, it's going to take about 4 months before they actually are able to hit it and do the search warrant on it. So the minute you suspect it, don't wait until you start smelling it. Don't wait until you see them doing harvesting or whatever. Just you think it is. They'll see and they'll investigate. They'll pull the energy usage, see what other things have been updated and stuff like that on it. So like they're gonna do their own investigation. And sometimes it's not a grow house. And it happens. We had about 3 in Agua Dulce that people swore up and down, and when we went in there was nothing.
Well, it's been there for a while. It's got I've seen a harvest. All the neighbors called the police on that day, and nothing happened. But I guess we should have gone this other route. But nobody lives there, and it's got like. No, go ahead.
Here, but basically, that LA County was kind of as far as whoever the DA is in charge there, it really wasn't pressing the issue. But this particular task force from the sheriff's department, they were going federal, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
correct? So the marijuana gets us in the door. They don't get charged with marijuana. Like when they get charged with it, but that gets and on some cases they've been able to do asset forfeitures if they can forensically see, like through accounting, that they're profiting, and they go after them in other houses and cars and boats and all that other stuff. But primarily, it's the environmental impact stuff. The marijuana does not stick whatsoever.
Huh. So is that just like water and electrical usage, or what is the?
It's the chemicals. Most of them are closed systems, right? So they're a hydroponic. So they're not using a lot of water or anything. It's a closed system. The chemicals they use are banned in the United States. They're very toxic. Outdoor grows. You see wildlife is usually the first indicator. A bunch of wildlife that that's dead, and it's a chain thing, right? So squirrels die, and then the bird eats the squirrel, or mountain lion, and now you have dead mountain lions and stuff. And it's like kind of like when you feed decon poison to your rats, and then your dogs passed away. It's the same kind of concept.
Okay.
Very, very, very potent stuff. But if it gets into our water system, as we all share water wells, as far as like the groundwater, it's dangerous to us. So if they dump that or are not disposing of those chemicals properly, that's where they're getting hit big time. So
I haven't seen anything like that.
well, you're not gonna. I mean, if they're putting it down the toilet, they don't have any way to dispose of it or whatever, or it's leaking, or they could have a hose out the back or something. You never know. So
that's my view, the back. So, but I know it's happening. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I really appreciate you telling me that.
Yes, not a problem.
Thank you.
Grace, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Now we're into the committee reports. First off is California Highway Patrol Community Advisory Committee meeting. Person, Candy Clemente.
No meeting, sir.
Okay. All right. And Election Committee, Rosie.
I don't think Rosie is here.
Are you serious?
I know. I'm a little worried.
I know, because this is her glory time. Well.
Yeah, but she did send a report, and I will read from that report that there were 4 seats open for a 2-year term. 4 applicants filed in a timely manner and have been verified as eligible, and those people are Candy Clemente, Cliff Grimes, Mary Johnson, and Catherine Segura. With 4 seats open and 4 candidates, an election is not required, and those eligible verified candidates will be elected by acclamation. The council members will be sworn in and take office at the December 14th, 2022 meeting.
Okay. Congratulations to the 4. Wonderful. All right, so Lewis Gates, just the way he wanted. But we're not going to let him go that easy. All right, great. Fantastic. So I wish Rosie was here, but she had a wonderful parade, too. I've had nothing but comments about the parade. Even though it was small, it was sweet. And so it was a good group of people, and I think everybody had a good time at the country fair and the parade, and look forward to doing it next year. Film Committee, Candy.
It was kind of slow, only 7 this month.
Oh, boy. Okay. Parks and Trails, Mary John.
There is a, let me see if I can find it. Give me just a second. There is movement about for a Northern Angeles National Monument and Protection of Wilderness. And what they're looking at is basically everything that's in the Angeles National Forest that is bordered by, let's say, the 14, the 5, and the 138. So it's that little triangle there. Anything in the Angeles National Forest, they're looking for protection in a couple of specific wilderness areas. And I had a meeting with a couple of the coalition people who are looking for this. And my big concern on something like that is that are there businesses within this that are affected? Because That's the last thing I want is to have a business, an established business,
There's no
being
reprimand to anybody for anything, so it doesn't
declared
surprise
in
me.
a monument, national monument area or wilderness area, and they're going to have a major hard time continuing that business. They have assured me that they're not, but I will keep you all informed of it as we are moving forward. And I should have brought this up at the last meeting, but I'll indicate that the town council had really worked with LA County Parks and Recreation to purchase the old Sweetwater Movie Land Ranch as a active park for Agua Dulce, and it appears as if that was so, well, it hasn't appeared, it has been sold to an individual, but it sounds like it is going to be up and vibrant, and hopefully they will be good neighbors to everybody along over in that area. So I'm a little disappointed that we weren't able to secure that as parkland, but we'll keep looking for other spots that might serve us well.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mary. Water stewardship. I don't know if you noticed it, but we actually had a little rain runoff this afternoon. It's kind of good for a change. So that benefits us in two ways. People that have sprinklers and whatnot don't turn the sprinklers on because it's raining. And then hopefully we're able to capture some of that water. This year has been horrible as far as, if I'm going to pick a word, that's what it's been. But the good thing is we're into October. So usually October, we know for certain the days will get shorter and cooler, and hopefully we'll get some rain this year. Along the lines of the grow houses and water usage, we are noticing that a lot of these homes are being flipped, being sold again. So it's like they were purchased in 2019 and 2020, and now they're sold again in 2022 because we go out to do a well test and find out it's the same property that we tested 2 years ago. So I think a lot of them are leaving the area when they find out it's not quite as profitable as they thought it might be. So that's good news. Ways and means. Scott Keller?
Nothing to report on.
Okay. All right. Disaster planning. Gary or Chris?
There are half a dozen new amateur radio licensed owners by the FCC, myself included. I am Kilo November 6, Whiskey Bravo Victor. And that was thanks to the Acton Amateur Radio Club. And right now, I wish I'd have had a bit more notice of this, but I'm week 2 into an 8-week community academy at the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Palmdale Station, and it's fascinating stuff.
Wow.
Particularly looking forward to October 28th, because I get to do a full shift ride along on the Friday of the Halloween weekend. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of fun things happening when we do that. So it's awesome. Next time there's one of these community academies, which is open to anyone, I'll try and make sure we publicize it and people can go along and really get an insight into LASD.
Wow.
And Chris, it's open to everyone that passes the background check.
Cool. Okay.
Not sure how I managed to get in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That eliminates a lot of Agua Dulce, right?
Yeah. No, because we had a couple community members this last time before the class that didn't realize that prior felonies, because you do have a lot of access to the station while you're going through the program and stuff, and like you said, ride-alongs and stuff, so you still have to pass a background check.
Okay, great. Well, that's good to know. That means they should feel safe while they're riding along. That's great. Okay, well, next up, we have other, which we don't have any other. So we have announcements at this point. Announcements are household hazardous waste and e-waste collections, first and third Saturday of each month. You can find more information on our website. Community project funding workshop hosted by Congressman Garcia, Friday, October 14th. That's right around the corner. And that's going to be held at Santa Clarita City Hall. Vasquez High School Fall Festival, Saturday, October 22nd, 2022. And that's on Red Rover, as everybody knows. free tire collection. How about that? October 22nd, 2022, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at LA County Public Works Road Yards, which there's one on L12, and there's also one right down here on Sierra Highway. No, there's not. Okay, Association Rural Town Council, October 26th, 7 p.m. There again via Zoom. And coffee with Assemblyman Tom Lackey. He had he met at the pizza place a couple of weeks ago and just seems like a wonderful person. That's going to be held Friday, October 28th, 6 to 7:30 at the Acton Community Center. Animal Care and Control October is known as Cat Adoption Promotion Month. Cat adoption fee is down to $13. Fee includes adoption, microchip, vaccinations, and spay neuter if needed. Through October 31st only, so get on it. Adoption fees waived for long stay cats and dogs in care for 60 days and longer. The fees are waived, including adoption, spay neuter, vaccinations, and microchip. So, those of you who are looking for a little friend, now's the time to do it. Santa Clara River Watershed Area Steering Committee, November 3rd, as Peter mentioned. The links are found on our website. Our next town council meeting is November 9th, and it will be via Zoom. And that look forward to seeing everybody here that can make it. And Natural Disasters Expo, Flood, Fire, Earthquake, Storm, Anaheim Convention Center. Everybody likes, whoever wants to drive out there. That's Wednesday, November 9th, and Thursday, November 10th. Free admission if you register. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Works reporting app, The Works, is now online. So check it out. Future agenda items, I don't think we collected any here. At that point, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting by someone out there. Or we can keep going.
I move to adjourn at 8:53.
Okay, and any, do I hear a second?
I second that.
All those in
Triple
favor,
that.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for the work you're doing, and look forward to having another meeting and progressing forward. Have a good week.
Great job, Chris. Thanks, Don.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Enjoy the rain.
Recording stopped.